Alright guys, so on this homework assignment, numbers 1 through 6, we needed to focus in on the second part. We needed to write the equation that is represented by these 3 points. So we want to find the parabola that actually crosses through all 3 points. So let's focus in on let's go with number 4, why not? So on number 4, we have 3 coordinates, and let me rewrite them. And there they are. So what I'm going to do now is just move the paper to the side and let's focus in on these. Oh, wait a minute. How come that didn't move? There we go. So we have these 3 points, and what we need to do is write a standard form quadratic equation that passes through these 3 points. So what does a quadratic equation look like? Looks like that. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Now the thing is, we need to know a, b, and c in order to write this quadratic equation. But we don't know a, b, or c. What are we given? We're given a bunch of points. And what are points? They're really x and y values. And for the sake of making it a little more visually easier for us, I use different colors on labeling the x and the y. So what we need to do is take each of these points and create a equation from these points, okay? So what do I know? I know the x and I know the y. Probably shouldn't have circled that. I'm sorry. So I know the x and the y. What I'm going to do is take this -1 and I'm going to plug it into the x values. All right. And what am I going to do with the y? I want to take that -16 and plug it into the y. And here it goes. So I have this equation and I'm plugging in the -1 into the x's. And I also have the -16 as my y. Let's do the same for the second coordinate. I want to make a second equation based on the x value of 2 and the y value of 5. And there it is. All I did was take my x value of 2 and put them right here into the x spots, right there and right there, and the y value of 5, and I put it into my y spot, which is right here. Let's go for the last point and make my last equation. So I want to actually work through this last one instead of popping it up there on the screen. Y is 8 equals a times x squared, but x is 5 on the third point, plus b times x plus b times 5 plus c at the very end. And ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is actually a 3x3 system. The only thing is it looks a little unorganized because we're used to having the answers on this side. Okay, so and we're also going to work out the math right here, the x squared. We're actually going to work it out. So let me rearrange it and make it a nice looking 3x3 system. So let me move this off and make it a little smaller. Move it over here, I guess. And we're going to rearrange this. Let me start with the blue equation. -1 squared is just 1, so we're going to have a. B times -1 is -1b, so I'm just going to put a minus b and plus c. And instead of the equals -16 that's on this side, I'm going to put it on this side. So I'm going to put equals -16 on this side. Let me go for the red equation, and let me just write it up there. And there it is. Once again, what did I do? I took the 2 squared, that's 4, so I wrote it as 4a. I took the 2 times b, I wrote it as 2b, and I took the c, wrote it right there, and the 5 that was on this side, I put it on this side, which you see right here. Okay, move on to the third one. The third one, let me just make it pop up right there. And there it is. And once again, all I did was 5 squared is 25, so I'm going to have a 25a. 5 times b is 5b, and the c is there, and the 8, I just put it on this side. So that's what I have right here, this purple equation. So that's my new 3x3 system. In order to be able to solve this, it's a good idea to label it. And I'm going to label it A, B, and C once I move it. And the first thing to do is to pick 2 equations, get a variable to cancel. So these become really easy because, as you could see, at the very end you have a C on all 3 equations. So it's easiest to start canceling out C's. So I'm going to take A and rewrite it exactly the way it is. And then I'm going to take B, and I want to actually write it as a -b, which means I want to multiply all the b equation by -1. So there is my a, just rewritten. there is my b, and all I did was change all the signs. As you could see, I had a 4a here, now it's negative. I had a positive 2b, now it's negative, and so on and so on. And now I'm able to combine and cancel the c's. So I'll get negative 3a minus 3b equals negative 21. And that's my new equation number 1. The next thing to do would be to take the equation you have not used, which is the c equation, and again get the same variable to cancel using any other equation. And there's my new c equation, and I'm just going to use a, but instead of just a, I want to make it a negative a. Okay, I want to change all the a values. So instead of a, I want to have a negative a. Instead of negative b, I want to have a positive 1b. Instead of plus c, it's going to be a minus c. And instead of a negative 16, it's going to be a positive 16. And now I'll be able to combine these guys, cancel the c's, and I'll get 24a plus 6b equals 24. And this is actually my new equation number 2. There we go. So I might as well label my steps here also. And there we go. We had step 1 right here to find my new equation number 1, step 2 right here to find new equation number 2. And now it's time for step number 3, which is creating a new 2x2 system and solving it with our new equations. So here is step 3. All I did was take my new equation 1, my new equation 2, and put them together so it could be a new 2x2 system. Now I need to solve this system. And of course, I'm going to be looking at the b's. That one's already a negative 3. This is a positive 6. So all I need to do is multiply the top equation by 2. Okay, so if I multiply it by 2, my top equation will be negative 6a minus 6b equals negative 42. And my bottom equation, I'm going to leave it the same. It's a 24a plus 6b equals 24. And now I'm able to combine, cancel, and solve. So the b's completely disappear. I want to end up with the 18a equals 18. And that's a great thing because if I divide both sides by 18, I'll get a equals 1. And that is one answer, but I need the other answers. So I'm going to take the a value of 1 and plug it back into this top equation into the a spot. So let me rewrite it. So there's my equation, but instead of a, I put parentheses because I want to plug in a 1 right there. And when I work this out, let me actually move everything and make a little more space. There it is. It's a little bit smaller now. But anyway, I have a negative 3 minus 3b equals negative 21, which means that if you add 3 to both sides, you have negative 3b equals negative 18, which means that b equals 3. So we have two answers. We have a equals 1, b equals 3. What we're going to do now is go back to the original 3x3 to plug in a and b to solve for c. So I'm going to go with the top equation, that blue one up there, and let me rewrite it. And as you could see, all I did was replace the a and the b with parentheses because I want to plug in my a and my b values right there. So what are my a and b values? I have an a value of 1 and I have a b value of 3. And now all I need to do is solve this equation and I'll have my third answer. Sorry about that. I just moved everything up so we could have a little more space to finish this. So I have a 1 minus 3 plus c equals negative 16, which means I have a negative 2 plus c equals negative 16. If I add 2 to both sides, I'll have c equals negative 14. So ladies and gentlemen, I have our three values, a, b, and c. Now why did I want those three values of a, b, and c? It was originally to plug them in to write my standard form quadratic trinomial equation. So what I want to do is simply take my a, b, and c values and plug them in to my standard form quadratic trinomial equation, which is right there, into the a spot, the b spot, and the c spot. So let me zoom out, and Let me actually write that final answer down here. Here it goes. Y equals ax squared, which a is 1, so you don't even need to write it, plus bx plus 3x plus c. That's a minus 14. And ladies and gentlemen, this is your standard form quadratic trinomial equation. And that quadratic trinomial equation, if you were to graph it, well, sorry about that. If you were to graph it, it would actually cross through these 3 points that we have right here. If you were to graph that quadratic trinomial equation, it'll pass through this point, and that point. I hope this made sense. I hope it helped you out, and I hope you'll be ready for the test next week.